The sound of paper shredding echoed through our kitchen as I stood frozen in the doorway. My mother, Elizabeth Preston, was feeding my college acceptance letters into the shredder, a satisfied smile playing on her perfectly painted lips. "Mom, what are you doing?" My voice cracked, watching 4 years of hard work disappear into confetti. She looked up, not a hint of remorse in her steel gray eyes. "Saving you from yourself, Alexandra. Girls like you don't need education. Your job is to marry well, like I did." I rushed forward, trying to save what remained. But it was too late. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all gone. Only fragments remained, showing glimpses of congratulations and full scholarship. Those were my letters. I screamed, my hands shaking as I tried to piece together the shreds. "I worked so hard for these." "Oh, please," she scoffed, brushing perfectly manicured hands against her designer dress. Working as a library assistant after school, maintaining that ridiculous 4.0 GPA, all those extra classes. That's not the life I want for my daughter. You're pretty, Alexandra. Use that instead of wasting time with books. I felt my world crumbling. At 18, I'd spent my entire high school career preparing for college. While other girls went to parties, I studied. When my friends were dating, I was taking advanced placement courses. My father had always encouraged my dreams before he passed away 3 years ago. But since then, Mom had become increasingly controlling, determined to mold me into her version of the perfect society daughter. "I got a full ride to Harvard," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "Do you know how rare that is? And what would you do there?" she demanded, lighting a cigarette. "Meet some poor academic? Become one of those tired-looking professional women? No, you'll thank me later. I've already arranged for you to meet James Harrison's son. His family has real money, Alexandra. That's the future you need." James Harrison Jr., the thought made me sick. He was 35, twice divorced, and known for his wandering hands at society functions. But his family owned half the real estate in our city, and to my mother, that made him perfect son-in-law material. "I'm not marrying James," I stated firmly, gathering the shredded remains of my dreams. "And you had no right to destroy my letters." Her hand struck fast, the slap echoing in our marble kitchen. "Don't take that tone with me. I'm your mother. I know what's best." I touched my stinging cheek, suddenly seeing her clearly. The perfect makeup couldn't hide the bitter lines around her mouth, the emptiness in her eyes. She'd married for money at 19, spent her life playing society wife, and now she was determined to force me down the same path. "Dad would have supported me," I said quietly. Her face darkened. "Your father filled your head with ridiculous notions. Look where his academic career got him. Dead at 45 with nothing but a professor's pension. But he died doing what he loved, teaching literature at the local university. He'd left me his love of learning, his books, and his belief that education could open any door." I turned away, heading to my room. Behind me, I heard her call out, "The Harrisons are coming for dinner tonight. Wear the blue dress. James likes blue." In my room, I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. I had digital copies of all my acceptance letters saved in my email. But when I logged in, my heart sank. The account had been wiped clean. Of course, Mom knew my password. She'd thought of everything. I sat on my bed, surrounded by the shredded papers that represented my future, and made a decision. I wouldn't become my mother. I wouldn't let her destroy everything I'd worked for. Opening my laptop, I began composing emails to every university that had accepted me, explaining my situation. I attached copies of my transcripts, which I thankfully stored on a hidden USB drive, and my SAT scores. "Please," I wrote, "I know this sounds incredible, but I can provide documentation of my previous acceptance. I just need another chance." As I hit send on the last email, my mother's voice floated up from downstairs. "Alexandra, the Harrisons will be here in an hour. Start getting ready." I looked at myself in the mirror, seeing the red mark on my cheek where she'd slapped me. In that moment, I made a promise to myself. This wasn't over. One way or another, I would find my way to college. I would make my father proud. What I didn't know then was that tomorrow would bring a phone call that would change everything. The next morning, I woke up with a splitting headache and the memory of last night's disastrous dinner. James Harrison Jr. had spent the entire evening staring at my chest while my mother beamed approvingly. When he tried to corner me in the hallway, his breath heavy with scotch, I'd accidentally spilled my water on his designer suit. "You embarrassed me," Mom had screamed after they left. "Do you know how hard I worked to arrange this?" I was contemplating my limited options while getting ready for my library shift when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, is this Alexandra Preston?" A warm, authoritative voice asked. "Yes, this is she. This is Dean Sarah Morrison from Harvard University. We received your email late last night, and I must say, it's quite concerning." My heart stopped. I hadn't actually expected anyone to respond so quickly. "I have your original acceptance letter right here," she continued. "Full academic scholarship, impressive recommendations, particularly from Dr. Williams regarding your research assistance in the Library Sciences Department. Would you mind explaining exactly what happened?" I took a deep breath and told her everything. The shredded letters, the wiped email account, my mother's plans for my future. To my surprise, my voice didn't shake. "Unfortunately, Ms. Preston, this isn't the first time we've encountered this situation. Some parents struggle with the idea of their children choosing different paths." My hopes started to fade. This was her polite way of saying there was nothing they could do. "However," she continued, "your case is unique. Dr. Williams called me personally this morning after receiving your email. He spoke very highly of your work ethic and potential. We've decided to reissue your acceptance package, this time directly to your workplace address." I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. "Really?" "Really," Dean Morrison confirmed. "Additionally, given your circumstances, we'd like to offer you early housing accommodation. Our summer program begins in 3 weeks. Would that help?" 3 weeks? I could be out of here in 3 weeks. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, that would help more than you know." After hanging up, I sat there trembling, possibilities suddenly stretching out before me. But I knew my mother wouldn't let me go easily. I needed a plan. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked extra shifts at the library, secretly saving every penny. Dr. Williams, understanding my situation, helped me arrange my affairs quietly. I applied for an emergency passport, gathered my important documents from our family lawyer, who'd been my father's friend, and packed a small bag with essentials. My mother remained blissfully unaware, focused on arranging more dinners with the Harrisons. "James is willing to overlook your little water incident," she'd say. "You're lucky he's so understanding." Then, exactly 16 days after Dean Morrison's call, my new acceptance package arrived at the library. Inside was everything I needed: acceptance letter, scholarship confirmation, housing assignment, and most importantly, a one-way plane ticket to Boston. That evening, I waited until my mother took her usual sleeping pill before quietly carrying my pre-packed bag downstairs. On the kitchen counter, I left a note. "Mom, by the time you read this, I'll be on my way to Harvard. I'm not asking for your blessing because I know you won't give it, but I am telling you that I choose education. I choose the future Dad always wanted for me. Don't try to stop me. By the time you wake up, I'll already be gone. Alexandra." I stepped out into the pre-dawn darkness, Dr. Williams waiting in his car as promised to drive me to the airport. As we pulled away from the house that had become my prison, I felt something inside me shift. "Your father would be incredibly proud," Dr. Williams said quietly, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "He always said you had his love of learning and your own brand of courage." I watched my childhood home disappear behind us, thinking about my father's favorite quote: "Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself." My mother's words echoed in my head. Girls like you don't need education. She was wrong. Girls like me didn't just need education, we deserved it. We would fight for it. And sometimes we would have to escape in the early morning hours to claim it. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of promise, I touched the acceptance letter in my pocket. In a few hours, I would be in Boston, starting the life I'd worked so hard to achieve. My mother might have destroyed the original letters, but she couldn't destroy my determination. This was just the beginning. 3 years later, I stood in Harvard's main library, shelving books during my work-study shift, when a familiar voice froze me in place. "Alexandra." I turned slowly to find my mother standing there, looking exactly as I remembered: perfectly coiffed hair, expensive clothes, and that disapproving frown I'd grown up with. "How did you find me?" I asked, gripping the book cart for support. "Money finds anything, dear." She glanced around the library with disdain. "So this is what you chose over a comfortable life? Dusty books and minimum wage?" I straightened my spine. At 21, I wasn't the same scared 18-year-old who fled in the night. I'm graduating summa cum laude next month. I've already been accepted into the master's program for library science with a full scholarship. And what about James? Do you know he married that awful Peterson girl? That could have been you, living in their mansion, wanting for nothing. I thought about James Harrison Jr.'s recent divorce announcement in the society pages, his third failed marriage. I want for nothing now, Mom. I have everything I need. Really? She raised an eyebrow. That shabby apartment you share with two other students? Those second-hand clothes? This, she waved her hand dismissively at the library, job? Before I could respond, a voice called out, Alex, the dean needs a presentation for tomorrow's library board meeting. Dr. Sarah Morrison, who become my mentor over the past 3 years, approached us. Recognition flickered in her eyes as she saw my mother. Mrs. Preston, she said coolly, I'm Dean Morrison. We spoke on the phone 3 years ago about Alexandra's acceptance letter, or rather, what remained of it. My mother's face tightened. You had no right to interfere in family matters. Actually, we had every right to protect a promising student. The dean smiled. Alexandra has just been awarded the Preston Memorial Scholarship. My mother's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. Preston Memorial? Yes, Dr. Morrison continued, named after her father. Alexandra's research proposal on modernizing library sciences caught the board's attention. She'll be presenting it tomorrow to the library board and potential donors. I watched the information sink in. My mother had always measured success in terms of social status and marriage prospects, but here was proof of a different kind of achievement, one that honored my father's memory and everything he believed in. I'm not the failure you think I am, Mom, I said quietly. I'm just successful in ways you never understood. She stared at me for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Your father, she said finally, he would have loved this. This life you've built. For the first time in years, I heard a tremor in her voice. He would have, I agreed. He always said education was the greatest adventure. I was wrong, she whispered, so softly I almost missed it. When I destroyed those letters, I was terrified you'd leave, become someone I didn't recognize. But you did anyway, didn't you? You became someone stronger. Tears pricked my eyes. Mom? No, let me finish. She squared her shoulders. I came here today to demand you come home, to tell you this foolishness had gone on long enough. But seeing you here, she gestured to the library, my sanctuary for the past 3 years. You belong here in a way you never belonged in our world. Dr. Morrison discreetly stepped away, leaving us alone among the towering bookshelves. I'm presenting my research tomorrow, I said. You could stay, if you want to see what I've been working on. My mother touched one of the books on my cart, running her finger along its spine. Your father used to do that same thing, she said softly. He loved the feel of books. She took a deep breath. What time is your presentation? 10 a.m., in the main conference room. She nodded, then turned to leave. At the end of the aisle, she paused. Alexandra? I'm proud of you, even if I don't understand this world you've chosen. After she left, I stood there among my beloved books, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. 3 years ago, I'd fled in the night, carrying nothing but a bag of clothes and shattered dreams. Now I had a future I'd built myself, brick by brick, book by book. The next morning, as I prepared to present my research, I looked out at the audience. There in the back row sat my mother wearing a Yale sweatshirt she must have bought from the campus store. When our eyes met, she smiled, not her usual society smile, but something real and a little bit broken and healing, like us. Sometimes, I realized, the happy ending isn't about fixing everything that was broken. Sometimes it's about building something new from the pieces, something stronger and more beautiful than before.